Welcome to my Kanal. Willkommen auf meinem Kanal. Benvenuta nel mio canale. Bienvenue sur ma chaîne. This is the first installment of what I hope to be many YouTube postings. And I'm going to speak extemporarily, mostly because if I don't, I get and try and rehearse things, they become more boring and less interesting. So the purpose of the canal is to commemorate my wonderful wife of 49 years, a visual artist, and many of her drawings and paintings, you can see a few behind you right as we speak, or as I speak, will be featured in future videos. As well, I plan to read a selection of over 300, at this point, well over 300 poems that I've written, one each day since July. My wife died in February 2021 of ovarian cancer after being ill for just over 14 months, most of which time she was experiencing a lot of difficulty as a result of her chemotherapy. So what can I tell you? It's been a devastating experience. It's been the most difficult year of my life, and I've tried to explore that. My career was as a psychotherapist, so I've spent a lot of time talking to people about grief over the years. And I've also experienced deep grief in the past because I lost my daughter to a stroke 10 years ago, and my wife and I published a small book, her drawings and my poems, afterwards, and I thought that grief was about as bad as grief could get, but I was wrong. Losing my beloved partner was by several orders of magnitude the worst experience I've had to go through. I also, unfortunately, happened to be have a brain aneurysm discovered around the same time as my wife was diagnosed, and I had an operation for that brain aneurysm a month before my wife died. And then, as a result of the operation, they messed up my prostate, and I was living with an indwelling catheter for 4 months, as it was the second wave of COVID. And I was waiting for an operation, but it didn't materialize until April of that year. So along with the grief, I was in a fair bit of, well, actually a lot of physical discomfort through that whole period. And the combination resulted in me hitting bottom and then discovering that bottom was a false bottom and there was a bottom below that bottom, and I hit that. And quite a few things got jarred loose. And my view of the world, my view of poetry, my view of grief, my view of love, just about every major category of experience has had to be radically reassessed. And the poems I've written have been part of a process of trying to undergo that reassessment and to find a way to express what has and what continues to happen to me around this devastating loss, to celebrate my wife, to mourn her, to praise her. So this is what you'll experience if you tune in to future postings. My wife was an amazing woman, as you'll get to hear if you continue to visit the channel. So I think that probably gives you some kind of idea. I think my history as a psychotherapist probably informs a lot of the things I have to say. I certainly have come to the conclusion that most of the things I said to people about grief in the past, most of the things I've read about grief, are either dead wrong or radically incomplete. And my current view is that grief is a perfectly natural and healthy experience, and that the efforts of the psychiatric community to pathologize grief and to suggest to you that if you're not over things in a certain amount of time, if you're not functioning fully in a certain amount of time, you're somehow in need of help, are complete nonsense. It's an overwhelming experience, totally overwhelming experience. And it requires your attention, it requires your compassion for yourself, and it requires a lot of courage. At least that's been my experience. How other people might experience these things, it's not really for me to say. So I'm going to just end at this point, invite you to visit future postings. There's a large selection of about 70 poems on my Facebook site, so if you'd like to kind of investigate that and see if there's anything there that would kind of make you want to come back, feel free. It's open to the public. My name's Peter Sims, so it shouldn't be too hard to find, living in Canada. And I think I'll end just now by reading you a very short poem, but probably an important poem, because it was the first poem I wrote after Gabrielle's death, in which I brought her voice into the poem. And I think that there was something about bringing her voice into a poem, using her words rather than my words, that released something in me, and that, I feel after that, I felt like the way was clear in a way, that I could just find my way forward rather than stumble forward, if you like. So I'll read you this poem and say goodbye for now. So, welcome to my site. The poem is called All You Said, July 10th, 2021. The week before the final week, I found you sitting on the bed weeping, and all you said was, "I tried so hard." And all I could think to answer was, "I know." And I cradled your hairless head into my chest and kissed the top and wished I could be your father. And you, my treasured child, and I would know how to protect you and lead you out of the labyrinth called cancer. And we would stand together again in the open, under the merciless dome of heaven. Bye for now. Okay, I'm going to try and read this poem without weeping this time. And here's the text, out in the back lawn here, trying to fulfill Yeats's dictum not to break up your lines to weep. Although I think he offered a lot of bad advice in spite of being a great poet. So here goes. The week before the final week, I found you sitting on the bed weeping, and all you said was, "I tried so hard." And all I could think to answer was, "I know." And I cradled your hairless head into my chest and kissed the top and wished I could be your father, and you, my treasured child, and I would know how to protect you and lead you out of the labyrinth
called cancer, and we would stand together again in the open under the merciless dome of heaven.